Hey, what's up guys? So I want to talk about power supply cables. So one of my biggest gripes about power supply cables is that they are proprietary, on one end anyways. So we have standards on the computer side that is universal. Like Molex is Molex, what's this? PCIe is PCIe. But when it comes to the power supply end, that's no longer the case. There's compatibility issues. So here's a Seasonic power supply, and as you can see, the motherboard is split between two cables here. So it's not universal. And if you had, where the point of this video is getting at, if you had custom sleeve cables like these, although these are extensions, but for example, these things are like $30 a piece if you wanted to have them made. If you got a new power supply, you would have to essentially throw these away if they weren't compatible. And chances are they won't be compatible. So where this can come into issues is, for example, these SATA cables here. I've ran into situations where an EVGA would actually plug into this and it would short out the power supply and trip, and you'd be spending a good minute trying to narrow down what caused it to trip just to find out you accidentally picked up a Seasonic SATA cable instead of an EVGA one, because they would look the same, even though EVGA is pretty good about, you know, making it look different with their sleeving. In this case it wasn't. So how do we get around this? Let's say you had the $30 custom cables. How do you get around the proprietary issue of power supplies? Well, that brings in this tool right here. This is a pin remover. What I've done, at least on my computer, which is not a quick process, is you can trace down each wire here, and on one end, the computer end, let's call it, you can trace it from that all the way to where, imagine this is the piece going into the power supply. You can move it around to put the pins in the right spot, and you can use for reference a true Seasonic cable, and say you had what is this, PCIe here, PCIe, one end being the end going to the computer, and then trace down the other end to the Seasonic and make sure everything matches up between both ends. So you have the original cable for reference, and then you can use swap the pins accordingly on the computer end to the power supply end. Just basically, in short, make the freaking two ends match. Simple enough. Just use the pin remover tool to swap these two around. So I'm going to show you how to exactly do that. That way you know how to save some money, because that's one cable you save is $30. Now there will be another issue when it comes to larger connectors like the motherboard connector, that you would need to buy something like this. So this is every end for everything basically. So in instances where like a motherboard cable would look like this, or they're an assholes on Seasonic and they split it, you can buy one of these, and this one doesn't fit, but no, yeah, it does, to basically move the pins from a big connector to where they are jerks and they split it up. That part gets a little frustrating, and another thing you should know is in some cases you might actually need to do soldering to do this, because some of these might be where you'd have two pins on one motherboard connector, maybe on Seasonic, they would take those two pins and jump it off the same one, and then you have to solder those two together to be safe. So it's not that easy of a process, but if you pull this off, you could save like, I don't know, $200 for some time and the cost of the tools, which is what, like $14.98, and this is probably like 10 bucks. So that's the big gripe on power supply cables. They're proprietary on one end, and unless you knew otherwise, you'd probably be scratching your head and then be frustrated when you find out your beautiful custom sleeve cables are worthless. Alright, let's get to it. Okay, so one thing you'd probably want to use is some form of multimeter to check continuity. And the reason for this is you can hold the connector in your hand, face it the same way, and figure out where one pin would be going from the computer side to the proprietary power supply side. So we can start with top left, and then basically just look around for where that pin is. Still nothing. Oh, there it is, right there. So you would know on the computer side, top right needs to go to, on your new connector, the top left on the proprietary side. So you can make sure you put that pin over here, because basically what you would be doing is, again using this for an example, you would take off, basically just take off this connector on the proprietary side, and then you know this is the computer side right here, and then you just add that pin to that spot. So that's how you would go about doing that. So I'm going to show you how to use the removal tool here, because I'm not gonna got this whole thing. I'm just gonna show you how to do it. I haven't even opened this yet. Wow. So these tools are kind of annoying. Let's see how close I can get. Yeah, lighting's good. Okay. So you have two little prongs here. Now, in my experience anyways, these two little prongs have a really hard time slipping into this connector right here. So I'm gonna try real quick. That's how it's, oh, this one's actually pretty good. This one's slim. So yeah, you just slide that in there, and there's two little wings that stick out and they bite the inside of the connector. There is you can barely see it. There's a little prong that's folded in. Let me see if I can point it out. Right here. And what this does is the tool slips by. This isn't the same tool. Here's the tool. And it pushes that in. So what I was doing was basically folding it like that to go over it, which you should be able to do both sides like this, and then it'll fold over like this and push those in. That way the connector will slip out. So when you get it pulled out, then you need to take the wings and pin them back out like that. Just pin them out so they bite the connector again. I'll do another one. So, oh shoot, I don't even know where that goes. Oh, rip that connector. Oh well. Here's this one. So, push it in, get that to bend it in, and then release. Ta-da. Okay, I'll show you again how to remove the pin. So we'll do top right, push into here, make sure they're on the sides, and then just kind of move it around a little bit. And that should slip out. Okay. And when you want to reseat it, make sure the wings are out, you know. Pry them out a little bit. So tiny. And then just put her back in. And oh, she's not biting. Okay, there we go. That's it. That's my little rough guide on how to use this tool and how to swap the pins over. I'm not doing a huge deep dive on the actual modding process because that's very, very time intensive. And if you want me to do that, just let me know. But I'll try my best in the comment section to explain more of things you might run into. One side note though I forgot to mention is if one of the wings breaks off on those pins, it's not the end of the world. As long as you got that other one, you can just fold it out a little bit more and it will still bite. You know, the main thing is that it just holds that pin in place until it reaches onto the power supply pin. So you just gotta get that one plug in and you're good, as long as it doesn't pull out while you're doing that. But let me know if you got any questions. I'm sure, this being very broad, there will be questions. But let me know if you got any questions that you need answered, and I'm pretty good about responding to those quickly on how to do this kind of stuff. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for watching.